Smith.
Hi, I'm Serena Halstead.
And I'm Spencer Ziegler. Welcome to Data Lit, a podcast for educators by educators. And as a reminder, us three are all employees of the Wake County Public School System in North Carolina. And specifically, we're in the Data Research and Accountability Department. And the kind of purpose of this podcast stemmed out of that. You know, we're trying to find a way to provide educational research to educators in a digestible and engaging manner. So that's where this podcast came 3 years ago. And at this point now, we're going into our third season. How's it feel?
Not bad. I didn't think we'd make it to 3 seasons, but it feels pretty good.
I'm with you, Mellisa.
Yeah.
I'm actually in the third season, and I'm pinching myself about that.
How many do you typically need for you to show up in syndication? Like, when do we get on TBS? The after school one? Okay, I assume we're already there. Okay, we'll see. So yeah, at this point, as we're looking ahead to the third season, but also we're kind of reflecting back on the 2 seasons we wrapped up. So today is really just a trailer just to kind of look back and look ahead. So let's start by looking backwards. What are your favorite moments of the podcast so far?
So for me, I think my favorite part is always when we get a chance to hear from actual practitioners.
Yeah.
So like whenever we do a teacher panel or a teacher interview, or hearing from our principals, or when we hear from district level folks, like hearing from people who actually do the work, I think that's always the most exciting part for me.
Yeah. I mean, we've been fortunate to talk to teachers, administrators, central office employees, and that's something that I think that we only did a little bit in the first season, a little bit more in the second season. It looks like we'll be doing even more so in the third season. So yeah, enjoy that.
Yeah, and my favorite part is, we come up with the topics, but then we also have to go research the topics. And even though we're talking to educators and, gleaning their ideas, we still have to be in the know. So I do like that collaborative idea of, sharing our ideas, but I also like the fact that we get to research information before we come on air.
Yeah, and I think that speaks to one of the things we're trying to accomplish with the podcast is that when we first started talking about this podcast, we were saying there's so much on teachers' plates. Can we take something off of it by doing that research, by doing some of that for them? And that was before the pandemic when we first started talking about that. Right. So this is only even more so the case since. So us three like to geek out over research. So if we can sometimes research is not always presented in the most engaging and accessible manner. So if we can go through all those giant research papers and to break it down into a little bit more practical steps, then, great. Hopefully that helps.
Yeah, I think that's a really good thing to help our teachers, like make things more accessible in terms of breaking it down into layman terms. So many times when you think about research, it's always like it's presented in a way for only researchers to hear from other researchers. And, you feel a little bit intimidated by, okay, I think I kind of know what they're talking about, but not always sure. So I like you said, like one of the main things that we're trying to do with this podcast is to take that information and to break it down and make it more accessible.
Right. And also using experts and not just researchers, but persons who are actually using the research. Yeah. So, for example, our principals or teachers, they're the ones who are actually using the information of the research. They're making it more accessible, to parents and to the community and to students. So, taking that research and making it meaningful to other audiences beyond researchers, that's really something that I look forward to.
Yeah. For me, it's been similar to yours in that find the practical application. But I loved, I think it was first season, we interviewed a bunch of students.
Oh,
and that to me was horribly time consuming to record and edit all that. But because that's the end user. That's why we do what we do, right? For the students. So to get their impressions on feedback, I believe it was yes, it was grounding because that's the whole purpose, all from the research to the administrators to the teachers, it's meant to see like, okay, do these kids get it? But also it's just hilarious. Like 5-year-olds on these kind of ideas. We need to release like a Snyder cut of like a 2-hour version of that episode because there's some just wild things they said. Yeah. So this season, we're going to tackle a number of different topics that we haven't really touched upon the few seasons before this. So we're going to start off with discussing just what we learned about data and data literacy from the pandemic. And from there, we'll launch into a series on rubrics, how to develop, how to use them, how to grade with them, and so on and so forth. And that's going to be a number of interviews, which I'm looking forward to, with researcher Sue Brookhart, with teachers, digital learning coordinators. We'll have a bit there. And also in this season, we'll interview various Wake County employees on how they use data in their roles. So we'll try to pull from a number of different positions for that. So that's where we're starting, but we'd also like to hear from y'all about what you would like to hear, what research you would like us to kind of break down and try to put into digestible bits. So let us know. So let's look ahead then a little bit. What are you looking forward to for this season? Serena, what about you then?
So I'm looking for having more expertise joining us in our podcast. And I'm looking to hear how they're tapping into their creative side of, teaching and just even reimagining how kids learn. And I say that, I've once heard somebody say, no information is new, which I'm not added there or near. I believe, information, we do get new information, right? But when I say the creative part of it, I'm looking at taking something that was said already or something that is old information and putting a different twist to it, reimagining what that could look like in this time or in this era, what is going on with us right now. Even, the pandemic, information has been sitting there, but persons have now been reimagining how we could have possibly used it. And this goes back to even the classroom, how students learn best. We see that there were things that we knew about how students learn, but then the pandemic has forced us to rethink what we thought we knew and even to add to it and be creative with some of the things that we thought we knew about how students learn best. So I'm looking to hear our interviewees coming in and telling us how they are reimagining things that they knew before.
Yeah, I like your use of the word creative in there, because that's something that sometimes I think research can miss. That in theory, in a lab, some of these principles might make sense. But when you actually get in front of 6-year-olds or 16-year-olds, there are variables that require some creativity. Do y'all watch Abbott Elementary?
Yep.
It's a great show. Yeah, last week, and a teacher trying to figure out how to do what the research might suggest when a kid is just shouting out Bluey quotes at them. That's where some of the creativity comes from. And that's where we hope to bridge between research says this, but in interviewing practitioners, how do they apply it creatively? Yeah. Mellisa, what are you looking forward to?
So I think, while we were working from home during the pandemic, one of the things I thought about a lot was all of the data that was coming to us. And so, you mentioned we would be talking to different people about the data that they use. So I'm really looking forward to hearing more about these data stories from people in our district who support our schools, but we don't typically think about them. Like a lot of the times in our roles, when we think of data, it's normally the outcome data, but there's so much other data out there. And so I'm looking forward to kind of hearing what that information or data looks like. And again, how is it used to support our schools?
Yeah. And mine was similar. I'm curious because essentially anything is data. Anything is information that informs our decisions. But each of us has kind of slightly different perception of what is data and what do we look at when making those decisions. So yeah, I'm hoping that we can talk to as diverse group as possible of people within Wake County to get a sense of what it looks like, no matter what their role, because it's going to look a little different for each one. And that's where if y'all are listening to this and you want to chat with us about your perception of data, let us know. We would love to interview you and get a sense of what it looks like in your position, for your role, for your constituents. And you can do that or leave any other messages, questions at our website, which is www.wcpss.net/datalit. And we look forward to chatting with y'all throughout the season as we learn more about research and data. Thank you to Enloe High School's Maya Smith for the theme music for this season. And we'll catch you next time.
Bye.
Take care.